Hello there, and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit. The man seated next to me is known to eat avocados whole, and his name is Mike Roth.
It's the pits.
That's it. Good night, everyone. Oh, my God. You know, you just set them up and you knock them down.
Well, thank you very much. This is our second try, and I did enjoy our first intro.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
You nailed it.
Sorry, audience.
You're
not going to get it.
Maybe an outtake for episode 300. But we are here to talk about some movies, and we got 3 of them to discuss on the marquee this week. And I'm going to start with our first one from director Malcolm D. Lee. We have the new movie Girls Trip. Girls Trip is starring Regina King as a lady named Ryan Pierce, and she, along with her husband Stuart, played by Mike Cutler, known as Luke Cage. Mr. Luke Cage is her husband. But the two of them are kind of the new Oprah. The new Oprah and what's her man's name? Yeah, I've totally forgot already. Doesn't matter. But she is the kind of the next big thing. Your Martha Stewart, your Rachel Ray, your influence maker. And she has a group of friends, you know, from high school, from college, called the Flossy Posse. Her and her 3 best friends, they were inseparable. And then, you know, as you grow up and life happens, they start to drift apart. And next thing you know, we haven't seen each other in 5 years, and our lives have gone on. Ryan Pierce is about to go down to New Orleans to sign a huge deal. She's going to be a keynote speaker at a big women's conference. And she chooses this time to reunite the Flossy Posse. So she brings in her friends Sasha, played by Queen Latifah, Lisa, played by Jada Pinkett Smith, and Dina, played by Tiffany Haddish. And the 4 of them go down, and chaos ensues in the streets of New Orleans because there's all kinds of drama happening. Each one of these ladies kind of has her own secret and her own insecurity. You know, there's a reason that they haven't really been hanging out for the last 5 years. Jada is a controlling helicopter mom. Queen Latifah runs a knockoff TMZ website.
Yeah,
Sasha's Secrets.
Nowhere close to the
right.
same level.
She is very struggling with this, and that comes into play. And Dina is the wild card. Dina is a crazy. And, you know, everyone has a mission on this trip. You know, we've got to get Lisa a man. Sasha's got to get some dirt to keep her website going. Ryan's got to sign this big multi-million-dollar deal. Of course, it doesn't go smoothly. Things are going to happen. Yeah. And hilarity will ensue. Tears will fall. Friendships will be made and crushed. And, yeah, I mean, it's kind of really kind of cookie cutter as far as the plot goes. You know where this is going for the most part. You know where the swerves are coming.
For the most part of this movie, it feels like something you've seen many, many times already. I think at the end, it kind of did a little saving grace. Not very often do I say, yeah, the movie got better as it progressed. But in this case, it did. At the beginning, the actresses, I don't think, had the chemistry that I was wanting. But later on, it feels like they kind of grew together a little bit.
Well, part of that, I mean, is because they had been, you know, I think that was meant to be. That, you know, they did have an awkward chemistry at the beginning because we were best friends, but I haven't seen you guys in years. And, you know. I like this cast, actually. I like Queen Latifah quite a bit in this. I like Regina Hall in this. And I think Dina needs her own movie because she was by far the best part of this film.
Oh, yeah.
She had me laughing out loud with her antics, and I would love to just watch a Dina movie. I don't know if it would work without the stabilizing forces for her to go crazy around.
She needs a couple of straight people just to kind of ground her. Otherwise...
Yeah, it would be really rough. But I thought she was actually really funny, and I thought that it really did a good job of showcasing what true friendships are, and you know sometimes there's ups and downs in relationships. Yeah. All kinds of relationships have their ups and downs. What did you think of Girls Trip, sir?
There was funny parts. I think the editing was terrible.
Okay.
I know that's kind of a weird thing to throw in. I think whoever did the trailer actually did a better job at editing some of the jokes than the movie. There was a couple of sloppy felt like it was forced jokes, forced situations. But, you know, that's kind of the typical thing of a lot of these party movies where they go out and, oh my gosh, this has to happen.
You've got to get from A to B.
At the end, I did really enjoy the message. And it was unique compared to a lot of other movies that are out there. One of the struggles is Regina Hall's character. She's having marital problems, and because of her fame and wealth, she feels like she has to stay with her husband. She feels like she is more important than herself really is, so she sticks with this relationship, and at the end, that comes out to play. And really, yeah, it's
empowering. It's an empowering message of you don't have to do something you don't want.
Exactly. And I thought the message in the end was really good. I did laugh at a lot of spots, but I really did think the trailers were funnier when they had certain scenes.
Sure.
One scene, of course, we've seen in the trailer where Lisa gets on the bungee or the zip line, and she gets stuck, and she really had to go before that. That was funnier in the trailers.
Yeah. You'd seen it a lot.
Yeah.
Which is always a drawback.
But there was a little part where she got stuck, and then they easily got her unstuck afterwards. It just felt really weird.
It did. It was awkward. What did you end up giving Girls Trip?
I gave it 2.5. I thought it was an average movie. I'll probably forget about it pretty soon.
I actually really enjoyed this way more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I was laughing out loud in the theater. In a weird spot where I was the only person who was laughing out loud. I just stopped caring and just like, let's go with it. I really enjoyed Dina's character and Queen Latifah. I like both of them quite a bit. So I had a lot of fun with this. Yeah. In a time where it's been some pretty bad comedies, I was actually pretty excited to laugh. So I liked it. Good flick.
Took you by surprise.
It did. I like that a lot. What's the next movie we have on the marquee, sir?
We have Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets, directed by
Luc Besson.
Luc Besson. You may know him from Fifth Element and Lucy. What we have is it's pretty much this year, it's 50 years after the comic book novel, as it's based on a French comic by Pierre Christopher and Jean-Claude Messer.
What are you doing?
I don't speak French. I'm very bad at it. But Major Valerian, he is... and Sergeant Lorraine, they are two agents, and they have to pretty much, there is a city where all these worlds come together. They bring their own culture and knowledge, and there's kind of a mystery going on. It's kind of you really don't know what's going on.
Something's happening at the core of the city.
Something is happening. There's like a missing part of the core where people go in and they don't come back alive, and these agents kind of have to solve this mystery. Majority of the movie really doesn't add up to the mystery in the end. You pretty much find out what's going on when the movie is concluding. But this does go from one beautiful scene to another beautiful scene. I've seen this in 3D, which I think you're supposed to see it in 3D. I was just amazed. I haven't seen a 3D movie this good visually since The Walk. And that was a long time ago. Yeah. The storyline is not that great. It really isn't. But the action is fun, and I like the acting, but the chemistry really wasn't there. It felt like Valerian, he is in love with Lorraine, and he wants to marry her, but it just felt really weird.
It felt like we stepped in because their relationship is at a point where it feels like we've missed a ton of backstory.
Yeah.
So it felt to me like I didn't know if he truly wanted to marry her, or if he was just saying this to get her to work with him and do what he wanted, or what kind of guy he was and what their relationship was, because obviously they've been together for a while.
Yeah.
And so I do really enjoy Dane DeHaan, and I do really enjoy Cara Delevingne in this movie.
Yeah.
Separately. Together, they grew on me as a team as it went along, but it felt really weird in the opening.
Yeah. Because at first it felt like they have never worked together.
Yeah, and then you figure out, like, oh, this has been a while. Like, it's a weird dynamic between them.
Yeah, the way she
It's a work romance.
Yeah.
And you're watching young romance kind of form.
Yeah.
And this weird tension between them.
Yeah.
And like you said, beautiful. I mean, this is one of the things I really enjoyed about this movie is it felt like it could very well be in the same universe as Fifth Element. Yeah. It felt like you could see those characters crossing paths in this movie, just showing up, and because it felt like Luc Besson really went back to this style that he used in that. Beautiful shots. I love there's like this VR marketplace that they show in the beginning, like in this desert to go shopping. You have to put these special glasses on, walk through, and it's this massive bazaar. But then if you take the glasses off, you're just standing in a desert. Yeah. I thought there was a lot of really interesting ideas.
The science fiction part, the science fiction fantasy part was phenomenal. Yeah. I enjoyed a lot of the little ideas. One of my favorite scenes was when they're trying to get Laureline to dress up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was funny.
And you find out that they're dressing her up like what we would dress up a turkey.
Sure,
we'll put on the little white booties and stuff like that. And I thought that was a clever scene. And then right after that, there was a long battle scene.
Right.
The battle scenes did get kind of on my nerves a little bit.
The movie, I thought, did a good job of just straddling the line of being a little campy, a little too campy for me. Yeah. Like it would dip its toe into the water, and they'd pull back. But I thought it was just beautiful, really cool character design. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I am a huge fan of the sci-fi fantasy genre, and I don't think we get enough of those.
No.
And we've talked about this when we did our list a couple months ago, that it's really actually tough when you narrow down that genre, that they don't really do a lot of those anymore. And I thought that Luc Besson did a really incredible job of building this universe and making it fun and sci-fi and adventurous and just a lot of fun throughout, basically.
I was thinking about that this week, and I think it's because of the comic book movies. I really do.
Absolutely.
The comic book movies are good, but they're sucking up all the other movies that would have been there. We're kind of missing a lot of fantasy. We don't see fantasy as often as we do.
Exactly.
And it's nice that we.
It is, and this is a really, it goes in with some of the better sci-fi fantasy movies, I think, in my opinion. And it didn't do well at the box office this week, unfortunately. No. And Luc Besson doesn't really make box office hits. Lucy is the only one of his movies that was a big box office hit.
Yeah.
I like this. I would love to see more of this universe.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that it probably won't happen. He wanted to make 3 of these. Don't see that happening, unfortunately.
No, it's one of the most expensive films ever made in France.
Yeah, $140 million budget. I think they pulled in $18 million on opening weekend. That's not going to get it done unless the overseas market is huge for them.
Yeah.
Which Lucy, that's what happened overseas. It made like $300 million. But yeah, I dug it. I even thought Rihanna was good in this. I thought as Bubble, I thought she was better than I imagined.
I really liked the character Bubble, and I loved how, and they showed it in the trailer, how she changes and stuff like that. And we've seen that in other movies before, but I don't think we've seen it this
it was
done
pretty
as
flawless.
Well. Yeah, it was great.
So ultimately, I ended up giving Valerian 3.5 stars.
I agree with you. It's a 3.5-star movie. I liked it a lot.
Go see it. I mean,
and see it in 3D. Honest to God, it's one of the best 3D movies out there. If you are a 3D aficionado, this is a movie that you have
Finally,
to see.
You don't have to see garbage in 3D.
Exactly.
Go see a good one when it's out.
Yeah, and it wasn't even shot in 3D. He was considering it, but the cameras were too heavy, so he went to.
But that's my excuse for most things around the house. It's too heavy. I'm not doing it.
But the computer rendering to make this 3D was fantastic, and it wasn't in your face. It was just enough where you knew what you were watching. It was
very cool. Excellent. Go check it out. The final movie we have on the marquee this week is the big one, the new movie from Christopher Nolan. It is Dunkirk, based on the true story of actual events in World War II. We open up, the Nazis have pushed English and French troops to the ocean. They have taken over, and they are in Dunkirk, France, and desperation is the key word here. Mm-hmm. Really cool opening, watching the bleakness as a soldier is running, trying to escape Nazi shots, comes upon the beach where all of these 400,000 soldiers are standing on this cold beach trying to find a way to get home. Let's get out of here. All these guys, this evacuation, it's evacuation and survival. That's all they're going for. Men are waiting, as the movie says, they're waiting for deliverance and a miracle. And that is it. And so really early on, they set the stage of just this desperation, and it never really subsides throughout the movie. Desperation comes through for everyone. And I think that Christopher Nolan does this really great job of using like a stopwatch ticking clock.
Yeah.
Along with just steady strings, kind of a Hitchcockian just string chorus to build and keep tension throughout the movie, and you just hear this ticking clock, which subliminally just works, I think, of like this, you're not safe.
Honest to God, I think this movie will win an Oscar for the orchestrated score.
I think it's going to win a lot of technical things.
It's the way they had the music, and the orchestra, it went with what was happening. Sometimes I was wondering if it was a woodwind or if it was the plane, and then it would go into something else. And not only did they have an orchestrated score, but sometimes underneath the orchestrated score, they would have other music playing that would create a tension or a feel. The ticking stop clock was a superb example of how they would use it and not use it in order to get.
And sometimes you wouldn't even notice. You wouldn't even notice, but it's been going on for minutes.
No.
Until you're like, what is going on? Like, I'm terrified. And it got to the point where the sound of like the bombers, the Nazis, because really, no matter what in this movie, you're not safe because a plane is coming and the Nazis are just bombing from the sky. And so you hear that sound and instantly you're like, oh God, here we go.
Yeah.
No one's safe. They're coming again.
I would say the cinematography of this movie is absolutely beautiful, but I think a lot of the audience emotional response came from this orchestrated score and the sound effects in the background. This is for music, and I usually don't mention the music unless it's something phenomenal. This is one of the best orchestrated scores I've seen in
it's
years.
Superbly effective. And the weird thing is, so the movie is broken down, and it gives you this kind of key at the beginning. It's broken down into three things. There's the mole, which is the beachhead, where the 400,000 army troops are on. And their story takes place over a week. In this movie, and it's kind of confusing. I've seen this movie now 3 times. And I think I've got it all squared away. And their story takes place over a 1-week period. You then have the sea, which is these fishing boat captains, small boat captains who have been dispatched from England to try and save whoever they can. I mean, these are literally just little charter boats coming in. Their story takes place over a 1-day period of them coming across the bay. And then you have the air, which is Tom Hardy and his mate, the 2 British fighter pilots having dogfights in the sky. Their story takes place over a 1-hour period. And so throughout this movie, you see a lot of the same things happen over and over again from different perspectives. You'll see a ship get bombed from the ship's perspective. Half hour later, you'll see it from the fighter's perspective. And so you'd think after a while that you would lose the tension because you're like, oh, I know what's going to happen. I've seen it. And if you start paying attention to like the numbers on the sides of the ships, you're like, okay, well, I know what happens to the ship. I already saw it. But it still works because the tension is built into it. And I think that it's really effective that way and when it shouldn't work.
And to have 3 timelines that were so drastically different, intertwining into each other's stories because they do converge. And
you will see if you watch it a couple of times, you start to see like the corner of the screen when they're in the air, you'll see a fishing boat just in the corner going by, and you're like, that's going to come into play later. I'm going to see that same scene from the boat's perspective and watch the plane go overhead, and it works. It's kind of weird the first time because there's a weird transition. And I found it kind of jarring the first time when it went from day to night. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And it took some adjustment to try and figure out where we were going with this.
I had the same experience, but once I realized what was happening, then I fell into it, and I thought that how they crafted that timeline was brilliant.
To me, this is Christopher Nolan has been playing around with non-linear storytelling since Memento. Right? And that one is just a crazy mind trip. But he's been kind of playing around with it. And this one, I feel like he really went in with some fun. I mean, Inception obviously had a lot of nonlinear storytelling as well that leave you questioning things. And I think he had a lot of fun with this in his editing and how I'm going to piece this together. And I think it really worked for me. And you had another thing that worked is most of the people in this movie aren't big names. So it's a lot of nameless, faceless guys out there. You know, you have Kenneth Branagh is this really stoic admiral up on trying to evacuate the troops. Tom Hardy, of course, is a fighter pilot. Again, covering his face. I want to see a mashup where it's him with the Bane voice. With his fighter pilot.
No, I don't want to hear that Bane voice.
And Mark Rylance, to me, is the star of this movie, is a guy who is out there on this boat just trying to save whoever he can. You can tell he's seen the ravages of war previous to this, and now he's an old man. And the one thing I enjoy about Mark Rylance, especially in this movie, but it was also in Bridge of Spies, was he has this economy of motion to him. Like, he does not waste any movements in his acting. If I'm just going to stand here and act, I'm going to act. And he doesn't waste any movements or get too crazy with it. I love, he has something in his eyes, and you see the sadness. And when he's telling this soldier, played by Cillian Murphy, like, we can't go back. We have to go get it, or we have to save these men, or the war is going to come to our shores.
Yep.
This isn't fun, but we have to do it, and it's powerful.
Yeah.
And so, of course, Harry Styles in this movie, a bunch of young girls are like, I'm going to see Harry Styles.
I did not hear that at
yeah,
all.
I heard that a lot, even though he plays really not a great guy in this movie.
No. Actually, the actors, even though they did a great job and everything, in this movie, everything kind of blurred. There's some major characters, like the French soldier, played by Damien Bernard. All the faces, all the accents and stuff just kind of blurred into a big ball. So I couldn't really pinpoint on certain things. Same thing with Tom Hardy. Yes, his face was covered, but so was his his partner, and so I couldn't really tell them apart unless I'm really paying attention to the voices. And
see, and that's why it kind of worked for me. Excuse me. That's kind of why it worked for me, is because it didn't feel like, oh, there's so and so and there's so and so as this. It did feel like, because in this movie and in the real life story, every man's efforts counted.
Yeah.
Literally, a guy with a tiny little boat, his efforts counted, because no one is safe in this. Every time you think someone is safe, you're not. Here comes a bomber. Man, and it's just like, it's this constant hope and then let down.
Well, there was a couple of scenes where I really could tell what was happening. And this sounds like I'm mentioning cliches, but if I see oil on water, I know someone's going to light it up. If I see a bunch of people who feel like they're safe inside a World War, that thing's going to sink. A lot of the air battles, too, I just felt like was repetitive, even though it was very beautiful.
I love those dogfights. I thought they were pretty great.
I think it's interesting that they show the people working with what they had. So it kind of brings you back like, wow, this stuff is really primitive. And they used to fly around in these things. Yeah. That's just as dangerous as getting shot at, it seems like. I enjoyed that, but I don't know. I just saw too much of it, and I couldn't get the emotion that I wanted for these characters. Some people love it. Really, if you are looking at it as a whole, you probably don't want to have an emotional attachment to certain characters. That is the one thing that made me draw away from the movie a little bit. Even though everything else about this is phenomenal, all the way down to the sea foam. And people don't use sea foam enough.
That's right. I thought how bleak and beautiful this movie was really worked for me. I saw it the first time in 70mm, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Went out to the Marcus Theater out in Waukesha. I saw it in 70mm. Beautiful.
Very nice.
I really enjoyed this movie. What did you end up giving Dunkirk?
I gave it a 3.5. I know everybody else is giving it a lot higher.
Hey, I know a guy who gave it a 1, so.
Oh.
Yeah. Jason. Anyways.
But this will win awards, at least for the orchestrated
technical
score
awards
and technical awards.
I gave it 5 stars. I feel like I'm throwing 5 stars around. I think this is more than I gave out all of last year.
Wow!
But this is This is in my top 3 movies of the year. Somewhere in there with Big Sick and Baby Driver sits Dunkirk. Love this movie.
Is it the Year of the Rabbit?
It might be.
It?
So both of us, though, are saying go check out Dunkirk.
Yes.
It's pretty beautiful. So what do we have, though, as our throwback this week, sir? Explain why this would be our throwback.
Well, we wanted a little bit of war, right? Because of Dunkirk. We wanted a little bit of aliens and space because of Valerian. We want a little love because of Girls Trip.
Absolutely.
Enemy Mine, 1985. It's a movie about 2 warring species. One is asexual, reptilian, kind of humanoid, and of course the humans, because we get in every war.
Absolutely.
We love them. And after a battle, 2 ships end up crash landing on this near vacant planet, and they are enemies, and they have to kind of learn to get along.
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid plays Willis, and Louis Gossett Jr. plays Jerry. And it's just because we can't say his name.
Right.
They got the gill things that could go, and we can't do that very well. What I love about this movie is how organically the plot majorly changes.
Mm-hmm.
It starts off as a war movie, and then it becomes a buddy movie, and then it becomes a culture shock movie, and it becomes a love movie. It's all this together. It's just looks really dated. We have a lot of miniatures and puppets.
I was blown away watching this because it has been 30 years probably since I saw this movie.
And cheesy fight scenes.
Ooh, and the prosthetics on Lou Gossett Jr., man. You can see the cutouts for his mouth.
You could, but I think they did very well for what they had.
Oh, for sure. It's 85 for sure.
It is 85. I would love to see a reboot of this movie. The storyline in this is fantastic. It's solid. It is many movies all wrapped in one with so many messages. But it looks really bad nowadays.
I was thinking that when I was watching it, it was like, this would be a good movie to redo. In the vein of like how, I don't think there's enough of these types of movies.
Yeah.
I think this would be it's a good story with just really dated visuals. It feels, if you watch it, it looks like a second-tier sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
But it does have a great script to it.
I think with a lot of the themes that go on in this, it would be perfect for, because they go into xenophobia and religion and stuff like that. It's not, ham-fisted, but it's there, and it kind of makes you think a little bit. I love this movie.
You'd have to teach someone how to do Lou Gossett Jr.'s voice, how to gargle while you talk.
I just assumed they added stuff.
No, that was him doing it.
Really?
Yeah, he used to do that as a kid, and he's like, how about if I do this gargle while I talk voice? And they're like, Wolfgang Petersen's like, let's try it. He's like, oh, it's great.
Wow.
He's like, it's a trick I used to do as a kid.
So remake the film, get a guy
get
that
Lou
knows
Gossett
tricks.
Jr. to come in and do the ADR.
And the child that that is in here, I guess Zammy's. He is Bumper Robinson, and he still acts today. He just does a lot of voiceover work.
Attaboy. Enemy Mine.
Enemy Mine.
Go check it out.
Check it out.
All right, let's take a quick look ahead at what is going to be coming out in the upcoming week. We have 3 movies that will be on the marquee. The first one is a movie that everyone's been clamoring for years. It is based off the Stephen King novel Dark Tower, starring Idris Elba. It looks pretty interesting to me.
I'm excited.
Yeah. The next one is a movie starring Halle Berry called Kidnap. This movie has been sitting on a shelf for many years, and it is just now finally getting released. It has been delayed 4 times.
All right.
That means quality.
The trailer does not give it justice.
Absolutely. And finally, we have the new movie from director Catherine Bigelow. It is Detroit, focusing on the events and the riots of 1967 Detroit.
I'm assuming that's going to be the big one.
I hope it's good because, this is her new movie following on the steps of Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30, a couple of pretty good movies. Yeah. She likes some serious subject matter. Despite making Point Break as a young director, she's now making more serious fare. I'm excited for that one. Of course, we want to thank our sponsor before we leave, Marcus Theaters, The Palace. Thank you for sponsoring the show. We do appreciate it. We love The Palace. If you want to find more from us, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at Real Reviews TV. Like us, follow us, do all those things. You can find a bunch of past episodes from us if you look on our YouTube channel, Real Reviews KSUN, or at ksun.tv. Find all of us in glorious HD.
Watch them in order. You get to watch your beard grow.
Watch it grow. Next week, we're going to be talking about Atomic Blonde and the Emoji Movie, Mike's favorite movie of the year, most anticipated. But until that time, my name is Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.